Yeah, it's a good one because he had some good info, and then you get to hear it from him what his breeding scheme was: 50% English Bulldog, 1.6, 1.6, 1.6 of the other stuff, which was cool. And I look and I haven't seen him on a whole bunch of platforms either. I know there was one by Troy Churchill, who's a American Bulldog breeder. He has a group. Speaking about like Facebook groups too, I have a Facebook group. It's for American Bulldogs because that's the breed I am, and it's mainly concentrated for people in Mexico. I'm trying to get more of these dogs into Mexico. There was one breeder who did a really good job, and a lot of people have his stuff. So some people bought some from me, and then I'm sending more, getting some more diversity down there, and just trying to get people to know the breed because I mean there's a lot of people who like dogs, and there's a lot of good boxers, good Rottweilers, and sometimes people will go to another breed because it's hard to import dogs into Mexico because of the price of sending the dogs down there. And a lot of us have kind of gotten in, like most of that figured out. We found some good sources for sending dogs down there. There's a transport that does a ground route in the U.S. and then goes into the Tijuana side, goes into Mexico, and then in Tijuana they board the dogs on a plane and just fly them to the rest of the country. And it's way more cost effective that way because in Mexico you can put dogs in cargo, bulldogs under the plane at whatever age. And I know that has its risks with the weather and everything, and especially I've heard people even doing layovers like that. And but in the U.S. we can't do that. I can't just take like a 12-week old American Bulldog pup, put it in cargo, and just like ship it to Texas at all. That I understand why people don't want to do that, and we used to do that up until about 2017, and that kind of really changed selling dogs for any bull breed because you could just I could drive up to Portland and put a dog on a plane to Texas, and it'd be like $300, and now it's three times that. So that's kind of, but I got that Facebook group on there, and most of it is in Spanish, but Facebook does a good job translating, and then people in the group know like, hey, some of these breeders on the U.S. side that are in that group are just trying to help people in Mexico and in the rest of Latin America, get some dogs into their hands, or maybe even sell dogs the other way, sell them from Mexico to the U.S., or just help with some questions. Like, there's a lot of questions in that group, and a few of us chime in, but sometimes people, they'll respond with some good answers. So that's just a group I'm running right now. It's about 2,000 members. And I think other people should do that too with their other breeds. If people are breeding kind of corsos or a breed that's like not huge in Mexico, but it's gaining momentum, like Borbals and stuff. They if they speak Spanish or they have a partner, someone who does, or even up in Canada, like make a group and get people to know the breed. I think it can be really helpful for the breed just to have more people breeding them or just owning them. Owning them is the important part. So you could like hop on a plane and be a flight nanny and just go to Mexico City. I've seen, I'm not exactly sure exactly what the rules are, but it might not always be the best thing, but it's the common thing where a flight nanny will just say it's their dog. But a lot of times they don't even question. Like we've put, I had someone from Connecticut fly out of JFK and come to Portland. I met them in the airport and I gave them their pup. And then they were flying through Alaska and they paid for their ticket and they said, "Oh, I have a puppy." They had the right carrier and everything. The person was very experienced, and they said, "Okay, well, for the carry on, the pet is going to be charged as a carry on luggage." It was like 120, and I had the folder with all the shots and the health certificate that was USDA and everything, and they didn't even ask for it, just board on. So I don't know. Each country is really strict. I know a lot of countries in the Caribbean are super strict, like blood tests to make sure that they have the rabies antibody. I'm sure we've heard of Australia, how strict it is with Australia. Like these crazy 180-day quarantines. Yeah, so it just depends where you're going, but U.S. and Mexico is pretty simple. Well, I from the what I see, it's pretty easy because this company that we're working with, it's two partners. One's in Guadalajara, the other one's in like the Tijuana area, Mexicali, and they'll they'll cross the border, come into the U.S., deliver puppies, and then just fill up their vehicle with puppies. They have their cage set up and everything all nice. They'll put a puppy in every cage and just drive on into Mexico with the dogs, and then uh, usually they'll go into Mexico on a Monday, and then Tuesday's the flight. They go to the airport super early with all their approved cages, and they just load everything up onto the planes. And I don't think at the border they're checking like all the documentation really strictly. It comes because the first time I tried to do something, I was getting like these really high prices for transportation, and the first time you try to do anything, lack of experience, it could be more expensive or you can mess it up. But once you know the right people who are really good at it, they learn the right way to do things. So that yeah, I have one family in Mexico that has two of my dogs, and then another uh, family in Mexico where the brother has one and the other brother has one of mine. So prices are much cheaper in Mexico. Prices are much cheaper. Veterinary work is so much cheaper, and it's just you can talk to people like for French bulldogs, English bulldogs. I know one person who bought an AB from me, and they also raised French and English bulldogs. And I was kind of hearing about the prices, and they're pretty low from what I hear. Like it, yeah. So contracts can be really hard. I know like some of them like require like I've even heard of contracts where they require you to feed a certain type of food. Yeah, and then I've even heard so there's like the new vet, which is a pretty decent product, but the way new vet works is like it'll partner with somebody, and that each person will get like a code, and then when you order you use a code, and then the person whose ever code that is, a breeder, an influencer, a vet, whatever, gets a little kickback. So I think the product is good. I've used it a little bit. I don't keep giving it because my dogs, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with them right now. When I started doing it, I had some issues, and they somewhat corrected themselves. I was pretty happy with the stuff. But I've even seen contracts where they said, "All right, you have to feed the dog the vitamin, and here's my discount code or whatever it is." New vet it fills dietary gaps. So if you're feeding kibble, the way kibble is cooked, it gets denatured when it just gets so dehydrated and cooked, it loses some of the minerals and vitamins in the process. It's kind of the trade-off we get for the convenience. So I think you're gonna have to get your own discount code for Nuvent now, since we're talking about it so much. Yeah, with the nutritional structural stuff, it's a lot in the front. It's a lot of ligaments, a lot of uh, weak joints that can help fix it. I mean, east west is one of the biggest things, like the dietary east west. There are some genetic east west where there's like two ligaments in the front legs, and if one is slightly shorter than the other, then it's gonna naturally kick out those feet, make them point each and every direction. But with diet, it can definitely thing. And I think for the east west and the new vet benefit, I think I'm not sure, but I believe it's glucosamine that's in that supplement that helps, and calcium. Well, I mean, I'm kind of lazy to like get in there and order it, and I kind of just go through my big box store, like human grade vitamins, and kind of just buy the glucosamine and the vitamin C. I think I said calcium. It's vitamin C. Sorry. The vitamin C, and then I'll get like my prenatals. I'll give my females prenatals when I think they're about to go in heat. So if I think a female's gonna go in heat like the middle of March, at the beginning of March, I'll start giving them prenatals, and usually it'll be like the middle when they go in or the very end of the month. So 2 to 4 weeks before they go into heat, I'll start doing prenatals, DHA and folic acid. And I just get the human grade stuff because it's like 11 to 15 bucks depending on the brand if you go to Walmart or whatever. But these dog like I'm not gonna say the names of the yeah I am bitch pills. It's like $60 a bottle, and that's what it is. So it's like I think you're paying some for the marketing, and they're for dogs, and they got the cool like bitch pills. So I think I'm gonna start a line off one of my dogs named Batman. Batman's about 27 months now, and he's produced 5 litters for me, and he's bred to 2 other females, and I just got those numbers up. I have other males that I could have used, but I just decided to go with Batman because he kind of fit like the end goal I have. So I got all these pups on the ground, 3 litters with me and 2 litters with other people, and then the 2 dogs that are now are with other kennels, one out of the country and one out of the state. But just putting pups on the ground so I know what he produces. Sometimes people say like, "Oh, you inbred that dog. That's why you have bad ears, bad eyes, whatever." It's not necessarily the inbreeding that caused it, but if you have that gene in your genome and you put 100 pups on the ground and you get one with a negative feature, well, inbreed it. Instead of 1 out of 100, you'll get 1 out of 25 or 1 out of 50. So I got a lot of pups on the ground, and my plan is to do a breeding scheme off Batman to create like a real line, granddaughter to Batman, maybe some half siblings, and then outcross to that, and then back to Batman. So I haven't definitely decided, but it sounds like most likely we're going to do a line off of Batman. And then I have Puma, which is his half sister. Puma's going straight to an outcross, and then the result of that is going to be kept as an outcross line. So it's easy to say, and there's a lot of variables that can come, but I'm thinking that's kind of the way we're going to go. Yeah, he's almost all black, and he's got like half a white collar on one side and he's black on the other side. But he's the big black male I have. It's got like the really very typey bulldog. You had Mr. Joe on one of your last Joe Rita, and he likes. I like a lot of the stuff he likes, but I try to keep it all on the AB side. I'm putting the 2 letters on it, not because I care, but because that's just the bloodline I'm going to continue putting myself in a box just to conform, so I can sell them. To be honest, I mean I have to sell whatever I don't keep. I got to sell. So I'm keeping it in a line in the breed, and that's kind of the phenotype I like. He called them Big Apple cheeks. I heard Brandon Johnson. I actually listened to that. Man, I've listened to like 3 of your interviews today so far. So, yeah, I listened to the one with bodybuilder Bulldogs. He said golf balls. It looks like you have golf balls in each cheek. Well, that's also kind of what I'm going. I got the look, so I'm trying to lock that in with a line off Batman. Uh, and when I try to explain that to people in Spanish, they're like, "What do you mean cheeks? What do you mean cheeks?" And they're like, "Oh no, that's part of the jaw." So, the people in English, I refer to them as the big cheeks, apple cheeks. But when I speak to people in Spanish, they're like, "No, that's not cheeks. That's part of the jaw." And they're right. So they got that part going on. So I got to remember that. Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because me too, with my lifestyle, I don't need like a working dog, and I don't need tons of ability. Like you said, if it can deter a burglar and maybe freak out when like a stranger comes in a car up my driveway, like I'd be super happy with that. And that is the goal. I got to have the type 2, and they have to be able to move like they could defend your home, and with the standard ABs, people who own standard ABs and have been in it for a while and participate in shows and work them, those are some of the most dedicated people because they're not after hype, they're not after looks, they're after like a real preservation of the essence of the bulldog. I was invited on a podcast called um, Bulldog and Company or American Bulldog and Company. I'm sorry. Yeah, he has a good style of dogs. He has them very well rounded. He's been in it. I think he said 97. Since 97, 98, he got his first dogs, and he's been really focusing on breeding, I think, like the last 10 or 12 years. And then I saw his interviews with a few people who work and showed whether they're bully dogs, hybrid dogs, and some standard dogs. Man, I see all this stuff they put into it, and showing and working and trials, and I'm like, wow, that's I thought that was really cool, and I learned a lot. Like Germany's law, like they don't allow crates in your home for your dogs. It's crazy. I'm like, man, we really are the land of the free. Like I can't believe it. They'll let you know when like laws are trying to get passed, like that whole thing in Texas where you couldn't tether your dog or chain your dog. People freaked out, and it ended up passing, but it was so modified. It was like you can't chain your dog. Well, you can, but there has to be a collar. So the same chain that's chained to like a tree or an anchor can't go all the way to the dog and then wrap around the dog's neck. Like it has to be a collar chain separate, which is like okay, like I don't know, like that's good, I guess. But it's just all these laws. I wonder how much money was spent just to pass that, and people need to really pay attention. And that's one thing that the AKC is good. Like they put out the newsletters, let people know, and Breeds Club know about legislation that's going on. It's crazy that they want to do that now, seeing how the most popular breed in the U.S. is the French Bulldog, which is a brachycephalic breed. So I considered them. I believe it was like 2018. A lot of American Bulldog breeders were also adding Frenchies to their alongside of their programs with the ABs. And I'm like, oh, they're pretty cool. They look nice. They got like all the colors going on, and there's a lot that you can do with them. But then I started getting into the breeding side of things. Okay, so we have to artificially inseminate all of them, which isn't a huge deal because I do some of that with my ABs. But then you have C sections. Like, oh man, so all right, so we're gonna put them in the house and do the whelping after the C section. I'm not gonna put them in the barn. I don't want to get any accidental infections. And then they're like, all right. And then I learned about C sections and timing. Timing a C section. If you pull those puppies 2 days too early from the womb, they're probably not gonna make it. They do the C section. Those pups are born without hair on their face, and they'll survive 2 days. So I'm like, nah, that's too for me. That's too much. I can't keep up with it, and I'll probably not be the best. I'll stick with my ABs. If I wanted a French Bulldog, I'll buy one and just have as a pet. I decided I don't want one because that's taking up a little bit of space for my AB program. So yeah, that's one thing that I went on, and I'm glad no one offered me a co-own or offered me one because I might have took it at the time. And I mean, I'm managing my stud Batman. He's been used, quite a few times. He's been used a few times. I've gotten a lot of interest, and I've shipped some chilled out of the country, and that was interesting. And it's kind of fun. Like I don't have to worry about a litter and staying up and changing and cleaning up after them and watching them. Because when you have a litter of puppies and they're between uh, well, since they're born, but especially between 2 and 4 weeks, like you're just have to watch them like a hawk. Like, is this one gaining weight? Is this one not eating? These two are walking. How about these two? Are they behind, or are they just like a day behind? They'll start blooming, you know. So it just kind of depends. You really got to keep an eye out. You can't just feed them and get out, or clean up and then get out. You got to watch those puppies for a while, various times throughout the day, just to make sure everything is okay. And if there's something wrong, you can catch it before it gets worse. you have to like it so much that you would do it almost for free. I would do the labor part for free and enjoy watching my dogs, you know, but it can get really expensive when you add on vet fees and traveling, and if I can cover my dog food bill and my vet expenses, oh, I'm more than happy. Yeah, I think something that I've noticed also is a lot of people in the past that I like families I sold a dog to, like their first dog, they had just gotten into their first home like months prior, like within 6 months, they had gotten a home before they had gotten the dog. And I think there's a little bit less people under 30 buying their first home. Before it was, I could see like a lot of people congratulating, oh, this friend from high school bought a bigger house or their first home, or they had, they bought a bigger house because they had another child, and then they would like, buy dogs or buy a pet, or maybe even not a pet, just a new car or something. And now I'm seeing less people getting into new homes because of the way things are with that market. So less people are getting a dog for their yard. The more the more people rent, the less likely they are to put a dog into their rental house, because whether it's them or their rental agreement or whatever. But hey, Sean, I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna get back to work because I'm actually at the restaurant right now. So, uh, it was, hey, it was cool to hop on. Thank you.